Thank you for the intro. Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us. We are here to talk about finding and applying for scholarships. So, without further ado, let's jump right in. So, OSAP is the Ontario Student Assistance Program. This is the provincial student loan provider. And then there is also the sort of federal counterpart is the NSLSC. So, OSAP is provincial, NSLSC is federal. What you do is you apply to OSAP, you give them your data, your info, basic stuff like where you're going to school, and they essentially authorize the funding. Then when you finish school, you start making your repayments to NSLSC, and you may be eligible for some assistance in that, which we'll talk about shortly. Okay, OSAP basics. Here's just a quick rundown of how OSAP works. You apply each year you're in school. So for your uni program, you apply 4 times, every sort of September-ish. Take you half an hour, maybe. The first time is probably the slowest. Again, it's just basic info, your SIN. It will ask you for tax info and your families, depending on your sort of family makeup, because they are essentially checking for need, financial need, right? The bigger your gap, the more funding you're likely to be given from OSAP. The deadline is actually before the end of your study period, which is kind of unusual, a month or 2. You could conceivably start your program in September, it goes through till April, and not apply for OSAP until February. Why you would, I don't know, but you could do that, things change. There's an OSAP section for underrepresented learners. As a student living with a disability, you fall under that umbrella. So there's some stuff there we'll talk about briefly. MSFAA, not a big deal. That's just a form, you'll fill it out. And then the disability verification form you may have to do. Okay, OSAP for students living with a disability. So this is one of the specific things that OSAP does for folks in this category. It's a little bit awkward, so I'll try to explain it. Essentially, OSAP looks at whether you are taking a full-time course load or a part-time course load. And if you are living with a disability, you can take part-time and still get full-time OSAP. You just self-ID when you're applying for OSAP. If you're part of either of these programs, ODSP or OW, you'll have a caseworker, and the OSAP site says speak to the caseworker. But the basic idea is, if you're on ODSP, you can apply to OSAP for education, not living costs. But you get this income exemption thing, which is pretty cool. Essentially, that means that any income you earn from a part-time job, maybe you work at the library a few hours a week on campus, that income will not get counted against your OSAP, which it can do in other cases. So if you're going to Niagara College in this example, you actually won't need that form because it is a public school here in Ontario. Thus, it is OSAP related. If you were going to, say, like Camosun College out in BC, then you would need that form, and it'll take probably a couple of weeks to get it. But the OSAP application is open now. So if you wanted to start in September, you could absolutely apply for OSAP right now, and just with an estimate of your income, what you expect school to cost, and they will apply that now, or approve it, rather. It contrasts with Ontario Works, which ostensibly allows both education and living costs, which is sort of the inverse, right? But there is a sort of marriage income element to it, whether if you're a single full-time student, you actually might not get OW. If you're a parent or you're married, you might. Again, they all have the caveat of when you are not sure, you should speak to your caseworker, which seems reasonable. There's a couple more things here. The Ontario Bursary for Students with Disabilities. This is part of one half of sort of this other one. There are two sides of the same coin. The Ontario version is up to $2,000 a year. It is specifically for, obviously, folks living with a disability who need extra services or maybe tutoring, assistive devices, transportation specialized that the school does not offer. So if Accessibility Services says, you know what, we can't get the darts truck out to you, then this bursary might kick in. And you apply for it at the same time as you apply for the Canada version, which is up to $20,000 a year. Same application, it's the same timeline as OSAP as well. So if you are living with a disability, you're applying for OSAP, make sure you apply for the Ontario BSWD and the Canada version. It's together up to $22,000 a year, and they are renewable through the entirety of your education. The severe permanent disability benefit is debt forgiveness for students who are finished. So if you're done school, you have student loans, and you're pretty sure you're not going back to school, this might be an option for you. If you can't repay your student loans, you must apply. There's nothing guaranteed or automatic about this. It kicks in when you're in repayment, and it could conceivably wipe out your entire debt. Now, the only caveat to it is that you cannot apply for a future Canada student loan if you take this nuclear option. So they'll wipe out your debt, but they won't let you take another loan. This final part about repayment is much more friendly in a way. Now, any student is eligible to get repayment assistance plan. That happens at the federal level. It's open to anybody. But there's also the disability assistance sort of subset, which is much more forgiving, really. The beauty here is that when you hit repayment, which happens 6 months after graduation, repayment kicks in, you can, you essentially skip a step. You apply for repayment assistance, and they will jump right to the lower loan payments, disability expenses, and maybe no payments at all. So if you have loans in repayment, there is an income threshold element to it, which I do have here actually. So it depends on family size, like a family of 2. If your income is more than $4,500, you might not qualify for this. So it really kind of will depend. But a lot of students will, I think. I know I got repayment assistance, just the vanilla one, when I was a kid. You apply through NSLSC, like I say, and yeah, they might get rid of your payments altogether. So I would absolutely be looking at this. And again, repayment kicks in 6 months after the end of your studies. Now, if you go back to school, like you finish your undergrad, you want to do a master's program, then your repayment is down the road after master's is complete. Boilerplate documents. So these are some pieces of paperwork that you're going to want to have on hand, ready to go, even before, in many cases, you know what scholarship you actually want to apply for. A lot of them require one or more of these boilerplates, and you can take these home and draw them up today using what I'll tell you now. Resume, 1 page. I've reviewed a lot of resumes. Probably some people in this room have as well. We tend not to read them closely until we're very close to a short list. So being quick and punchy is important. 1 page is really all you're going to need. Having a couple of references is good. 2 is good. 3 is better. Generally, you want somebody who knows you pretty well in an academic or professional capacity, but who is not a family or friend. They want to speak to your qualities, your personality, and they should essentially, what they say, should reinforce what is on your resume, and vice versa. And then finally, the personal statement. We'll cover that in the next slide. But fundamentally, you want to be sure to customize these docs. But most people want to hear about you and your goals, and what winning the award would mean to you, and what it would mean to your community. So you want to, in 500-ish words, essentially hit all these beats. The first one is your elevator pitch. Who are you? How do you define yourself? I'll spare you mine, but I have it ready. Your goals, what do you want to achieve? Why are you taking post-secondary? Why are you taking this particular program, this particular school? What is it about it that motivates you? What winning the award would mean? Obviously, it means money. That's given, but would it enable you to do other things maybe that you couldn't do before, frees up some time perhaps to engage with your community? Maybe you have more time to volunteer because you don't have to work part-time. You got some funding coming in. Again, we want to be very others-focused, right? Are you inspiring your baby sister to get into cybersecurity because she's seen you go through it and succeed, right? Scholarship admins want to feel like they are doing good in the world, and they want to feel like you are an agent of good as well. And I really appreciate your time and attention today, so thank you.